I'm Lynn.
I'm Amanda.
And this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We're cutting through the fluff and cracking open what it really takes to build a business and life that you actually want.
No gurus, no gatekeeping, just real talk, big action, and the badass energy you need to scale and slay.
Some episodes, it's just us.
And sometimes we bring on powerful guests with stories that'll hit home.
Either way, this is not about playing small.
It's about going all in.
Let's get after it. Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We are back and talking about excuses, the ones you tell yourself and the ones you tell others. Is that holding you back in your business?
Yes. I'll have these. What?
I was like, I'm going to answer my own question. Is that holding you back in your business? Yes, it is. Yes,
the answer is yes. It's interesting when we decided to do this one. I can think of all of the ones I hear clients, like our clients will say, and some don't position themselves as excuses. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the difference between an excuse and a reason, how they can change, how they can be interchangeable. But at the end of the day, a lot of our clients and even ourselves, I don't know if I'd say ourselves, but I will definitely say we've dealt with a lot of clients who point the finger outward and have a reason why this doesn't work, a reason why. I know that mine is a lot more internal, the excuse I tell myself, not necessarily. And like, I'll get it tomorrow, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. And I know we're going to go over some of the excuses, but that resistance to move forward is rooted in an excuse of some sort, which is rooted in maybe a fear or imposter syndrome and all of that. So it's kind of like different layers. But I will also say too, I feel like it's kind of become more so just the go-to, like not even thinking about it, just automatically becomes an excuse that's become the pattern, that's become the habit and the knowing, if that makes sense.
I absolutely think it's a pattern. I think at some point it shifts because as humans, there's going to be times that we have excuses and or reasons, or maybe it started as just more of a reason and now it's evolved into this constant excuse, but I think it gets into a pattern shift. And I'll give one of mine that I had from 8 years ago. I'm having a baby. That's going to affect whether or not I can be a productive entrepreneur. And that's something I told myself during my whole pregnancy. I think it's what a lot of people tell themselves, like this dialogue, and maybe it's societal, maybe it's your family, maybe it's whatever. But you start to tell yourself that these are the things. I can't do this because of this. I can't do this because I'm a woman. I can't do this because I have a kid. I can't do it because the sun is shining. Like there's so many reasons or excuses that we make up that become a pattern that becomes part of who we are. And if you don't break that pattern, then that's how the pattern is going to keep going. Like you're going to be that person who couldn't do it because they had kids, because you decided that's what your story was going to be. And that's how you ended up. Like that's the narrative you've decided is your narrative, and it becomes part of who you are. And that pattern gets so ingrained that you can't extricate it from yourself. It becomes who you are. Woe is me. This is part of my life. And it feeds straight into that martyr and victim mentality that you and I struggle to be nice about. But I think it is a pattern that it takes a lot more effort to break than people realize. And so much of it, for me, I know for you as well, is internal. We don't talk about it very often. We don't say it aloud, and it's still there. But the question is, are you going to let it be a pattern that stops you from progressing and moving beyond it? Or is it just one of those like nagging things in the back of their head that you remind yourself isn't really truth?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. There are a couple of thoughts that came up, including a conversation that we just had about Googling something, but I'm not going to bring that up. I'll let you bring that up if you want to. But it's true. That's one of the topics that came up. But you said go straight into victim mentality. And I actually want to also address that it's not always, that's absolute. A lot of people do go straight into victim mentality. But I also want to talk to the people who don't go into victim mentality, that actually set up a pattern of lack of accomplishment and lack of this, but it's not necessarily, and I'll throw myself on the stake for this one. I personally, one of the excuses that I found, I'll tell myself, especially when I'm exhausted or I'm just like disconnected, is I'll put things off. I'll create all my lists and I'll say, I'll get to that tomorrow. I might have time set up and say, oh, it's not due yet. I'll get to that tomorrow. And I'm not falling into victim mode. But what happens then is I'm not getting the stuff done. Then we'll either like super crunch it in, or I will just keep avoiding it. It's interesting because a lot of people do fall into victim mode, but there's a lot of people who won't fall into victim mode with the excuses that they're giving themselves. So I want to make sure that we see both sides, because I can tell you the people who don't slip into that victim mode and that victim mentality will say, oh, well, this isn't an excuse because I'm not falling into victim mode. Bullshit. You are using this as an excuse, or you are using this as a lie. That we've talked about this, like we have to do things last minute because we're great at it. And that's where we get our most energy and stuff. And that's not necessarily falling into that victim side. And so I feel like the people who fall into the victim side, a lot of times across the board, we don't notice the lies, the excuses that we're telling ourselves subconsciously and consciously, externally and internally. So implicit and explicitly, we don't recognize sometimes. We're just kind of there, and maybe after the fact. And that has something to do with the lack of self-awareness, the lack of actually healthy criticizing oneself and kind of our own ways. And I say healthy because I think that there is a healthy way to do it. So first, it's acknowledging where you're lying to yourself. Like, and this is, again, where's the resistance? And the person that it's all centered around is always going to be you. Your life is always centered around you. And so if you're not accomplishing something, if you're constantly falling into a certain pattern, that's you. So what excuse, if you have acknowledged it, what excuse are you telling yourself to stay in that pattern? Or what excuses and lies have you told yourself to put yourself into that pattern? I think it's like both ways.
And that's really hard to sit with, because ultimately, no matter what the excuse, no matter what the reason, no matter what lies you tell yourself, at the end of the day, no matter where you go, there you are. And I know that's a really hard one. That was one that stuck with me for years. I actually remember the first time I used that term. It was in 2005. I remember this. So in 2005, I told myself, you can't be happy here. You can't be happy anywhere. No matter where you go, there you are. So if all of the things you've been telling yourself of why things aren't working out or why things aren't the way you want them to be, it's not those circumstances, it's you. Because if you remove all of those things, all those excuses, all the places you keep running away from whatever it is, and this is like on a larger scale. I mean, obviously, I tell myself I'll do it tomorrow all the time. It never actually gets done. I'll check my email tomorrow. But there are a lot of things that are on a bigger scale that you have to really sit down with yourself and realize that you're the problem. You're also the solution, though.
Yeah.
But you've got to be okay and open to that concept, because you're never going to get better if you don't, admit that you need help and admit that it's the problem. Yes, it's depressing to sit in the idea that all these things that aren't working out are your fault, but all these things can work out because of you. So it's both sides of it, and it's how you choose to see it and where you choose to sit on that line.
I agree. And it's interesting when you were talking, I was thinking about the compounded effect, right? So I self-admittedly, emails are the first to go. And, it's become this like badge almost. So we're training ourselves actually how to engage, right? And the thing is, though, is the whole I'll answer emails tomorrow. Like I'm setting myself up for failure because I know that's not my priority, when maybe it would take 15 minutes to do it now. And I'm talking personally, when I'm not in the current habit, because I go in and out of this one, of saying, oh, I'll check my email tomorrow, not holding myself accountable and actually doing it, or doing it right then and there, that I'm actually setting up this like compounded effect that I've really noticed, especially recently, where I get in this lull where I'm not as productive. Things aren't flowing as easy. It's like there's so many things that feel like it's just not coming. I'm not having the return on investment of the time I think that I'm spending doing the things that I should not be making excuses for. But really, if I look at it from a critical lens, I'm not spending as much time as what I think, including my definition of time, because I know we work at a higher capacity and speed than most. That compounded effect that it's had. And then I find myself in a hole, in a lull. When I'm not in that, on the adverse side, I'm like doing things right away. I'm not making those excuses or lying to myself myself. I love your phrase. No matter where you go, there you are. One phrase I would add to this is the only person you're lying to is yourself. I say that all the time to my clients, mumbled under my breath to people, and then also to myself. Like, who are you lying to? You know you're not going to do this, so do it today. I know we don't really have the time to get into it fully. And I know we've talked about in other podcasts, but there's something behind that. There's a reason why you're setting yourself up for failure. There's different things. There's different reasons that you might use different excuses, but that pattern's there and you're allowing yourself to do it. Essentially, these lies, these excuses are compounding the patterns and the habits in which you have now. If you are not where you want to be emotionally, spiritually, business-wise, sales cycle-wise, leadership-wise, the whole spectrum, then what lie or excuse are you telling yourself? Because we are human. We are human. And I think that all of us kind of set ourselves up with some might even call it a belief. But is it an excuse? Is it a lie that you're telling yourself? We can get into the semantics if you want, but at the end of the day, it's something that's holding you back because you continue to tell yourself that you are this way or that you are this, or it's something that's systemic that was placed upon you that you have harbored and kind of like even on a subconscious level.
Absolutely. There's always a root. The question is, are you willing to dig for it? And do you want the fruit of that labor to come to fruition? Like, are you willing to sit in it? Is the pain of where you are greater than the pain of figuring that root out? Honestly, the answer might be no. You might be okay with being where, and I'm not saying live in mediocrity, I'm not saying that. However, depending on what excuse you're telling yourself, depending on where you are in life, sometimes the excuses that we make are to protect ourselves, that we're not ready to face it yet. We're not ready to deal with it yet. We're not ready for a number of reasons. And there's all sorts of things that you can unpack there. And you have to decide the thing that you want that you haven't had yet because of your own choices and your own excuses. Is that thing important enough to you to make the decision? I feel like we bring a lot of parallels into the fitness world. And I'm going to bring one again. Like, if you're trying to lose weight and you want all those things and your body is hurting, there's all these reasons that you want it. Is that going to outweigh a binge eating session, or whether or not you choose to go to the gym when you don't really want to? Like, is that pain that you're sitting in going to be worth more than that? The decision you have to make, and it's not always easy, and there's almost always more to it than what you're telling yourself. Even emails, even calling somebody back on the phone. It's not the reason I tell people. I mean, it is somewhat that reason, but there's always more than that. There's more than that. It's never just about the email. It's never just about being late to an appointment. It's never just one thing. We're complicated human beings. It's never just one thing.
No.
At least for most people I know.
Absolutely. And I'll go back to the fitness example. Like, you could be beating yourself up. Maybe you are restrictive eating and you do go to the gym, but when you have a critical eye, and I think that that's the other thing, is like taking a step back and actually analyzing and looking at things with a critical eye, especially goals or markers that you're not meeting and why you're not meeting it. Literally having this conversation with myself this week because I've been out of country. So I haven't been going to my own gym, which is driving me a little bit crazy, but I've been walking so much and exercising here and there. But I'm like, okay, what are all the reasons why I feel like maybe my body is changing back? Well, it's because I'm not working out 5 times a week like I normally do. Walking is great, but I'm not doing what I normally do, right? But I've also people who, in that situation that you were talking about, the food that they're consuming is complete junk and they're not on a schedule and they're actually not looking at the health of what they should be eating and the resistance. And I mean, that is a fitness example. We can give so many different examples. At the end of the day, looking at where you're falling short or where you're not producing or where you feel the resistance or whatever. Have a critical eye. Like, why is that? What excuses, what lies, and again, the only person you're lying to is yourself, like internally, externally, the patterns that you're in and how to fix that. The normal lies that we tell ourselves, I don't have time. I need to be more consistent. Once I do X or once I fix X, then, or I'm not ready, or I need more. That drives me crazy. I need more of this. I need more of that.
I need to update my website again. Yeah. I need to look at my
I'm
sales
burned
funnel
out.
again. I need a new, yeah, I'm burned out.
People aren't buying. Oh, I know we're going to do another podcast around sales, but I don't want to be pushy. I'm not laughing at the excuses. I'm laughing at myself because it does trigger something in me, especially that last one. Or the,
The pushy sales one. I think
yeah,
I've heard that a million trillion times. I don't want to be too salesy. I'm like, well, then you don't want to make any sales?
yeah. The thing is that's an excuse. Now there's something, yeah, maybe you don't want to be pushy, but sales isn't pushy. Oh, we get this in Thailand. I've seen this a lot is, oh, everybody's leaving, so nobody's buying right now. That's bullshit. The whole city isn't leaving. That's a mentality, right? Those excuses, those lies that we tell ourselves that could be actual facts, we're pushing it into the excuse, which is creating a reality that is creating the results that aren't. So at the end of the day, we all tell ourselves lies. We all have these excuses. And they're creating resistance or bottlenecks within our flow of business, of life, of whatever. I can even get into a lot of the cultural nuanced ones as well, but I think we'll save that for another podcast. If you want it bad enough, you can do it. There's so many different stories, regardless of culture, regardless of upbringing, regardless of belief, regardless of all of this other stuff of people who have overcome the barriers in which were placed upon them or they placed upon themselves and have accomplished great things. Those stories are becoming more and more because of the accessibility and the ability to have access to things that we never had and the connectivity that we can have. Those stories are becoming more and more. And so the only person you're lying to is yourself. So it's time to kind of have a critical eye on that and to reprogram. And it's not an overnight thing, especially if this is something that you've been living in with, because it becomes part of your identity as well. What is a joke and what you say, words are powerful. What you say out loud eventually becomes the story that you're writing for yourself. How are you going to fix that? And do you want to? If you don't, then you just wasted 30 minutes on this podcast. But if you do, then yeah, do something. Be about it.
We talk about that all the time. It's all good and well and good to talk about it, but you got to do the thing. You got to put the work in and put the action in. It can't just be listening to this podcast and saying, they have a point there, and then nothing. That's not what we're about. So your challenge this week is to look at one of your most common excuses, one of your most common reasons for not doing something, for not accomplishing something, big or small. What is it that you're doing right now in your life you're holding yourself back from? Think about it. What's the excuse you're telling yourself? What's the lies you're telling yourself right now? It doesn't have to be serious. It could be much more on the light side. Like I said, I'll check those emails tomorrow. It doesn't have to be a deep soul-searching event today. But we do want you to put in some work here, put in the action to overcome those excuses, those lies that you're telling yourself in your business. And of course, like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed watching or listening to it, make sure you are telling your friends, sharing it with someone else who might need to hear this message, maybe slowly slip it into their emails if they need to hear this message, and make sure you're liking and subscribing on all platforms.
Absolutely. Till next time.
Get after it.
Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
Take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to the pursuitofbadasserie.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time,
let's get after it.